What is going on, everybody? Shri Kanase here, and this video is going to be a very special video because I'm going to be doing a full-on case study of one of the most successful e-commerce brands I have worked with to this date. Now, there's a lot of intricate details within this case study we will be going over, such as when it started, how it started, the specific details as to how it's currently running, whether it's a real e-commerce brand or if it's just some random guy running an e-commerce business from his mom's basement. Actually, how they were able to do this big number, what kind of advertising platform they used, what strategies they used, etc, etc. So this is one video you're gonna want to watch until the end. But as you guys see right here on my screen, we're looking at that specific e-commerce brand. So far this month, they have done about just $3,500. Last month, however, was much better, and we did about $122,000 with this e-commerce brand, about 99% from Google Ads. But now let's kind of go back a bit to look at the case study period of what this video is solely based on. So from January 1st of 2021 all the way to December 31st of 2021, we can see this brand did roughly $4,783,560, but that's of course after returns of $207,000. So in reality, they did about $4.2 million in one single year. Now this kind of actually blows my mind because a lot of e-commerce brand owners don't realize what the real potential is of their brand, don't realize how quickly with the right strategies, with the right people, they can really find this level of success. I mean, if we go back in January of 2020 and looked all the way to December 31st of 2020, we can see just how far this brand has come overall. So during that time period, the first year when this business was started, because they started late 2018, late 2019, and they weren't doing too great in those 2-year time periods. But we can see this year of 2020, they did roughly $1.6 million with about $50,000 in sales. Still a very good feat, but nowhere close to what they did in 2021. So it's really important to understand what they did differently, almost grow their brand at this scale by 3 times what they did the previous year, and what strategies they were following. Because let me tell you the honest truth, whatever they did to do about $1.5 million in sales in 2020 was not the same thing or strategies that they were using in 2021 to do 3 times that. Of course, there were better strategies in place, there were better team members in place, and all of that good stuff. But kind of a little bit of a background within this e-commerce brand. If we go on over to the analytics section, we can see very easily that this is a full-on high-ticket store just by the sheer volume of the average order value. So throughout this time period, the average order value did kind of fluctuate. It was basically about $420 in the early time period of 2021. And in 2020, it was a little bit lower in terms of the AOV. So one thing you kind of see right away with this e-commerce brand is as quickly as they've kind of increased their AOV, they were also able to increase their results from the previous year. So we can see 157% growth year over year from the previous time period. But as of last year, the AOV was about $418. If we just look at the time period right now for this year specifically, we can see that the AOV is still in the general same range, but it has again increased to $533. However, the overall sales volume has decreased significantly, hence one of the main reasons why this e-commerce brand started working with me under my Google Ads agency, Your Marketing, which if you're doing around $30,000 or more per month, you need just a little bit of extra help scaling your e-commerce brand to the next level and taking it to levels like it was at previously. Go on to my website at yourmarketing.com and book a free call with me to see how we can make that happen. But with this brand, we just basically started working with this brand about 2 weeks ago. But the main thing I wanted to kind of go over is how this brand was able to do this number right here. Because yes, I did do a very deep analysis. That's the whole thing I've been doing for the past 2 weeks with this brand to understand why they were at this level and why it sort of started to come down over this year specifically of 2022. But overall, looking at other metrics, they did have about 1 million visitors with a very good return customer rate of 27%. So that just lets you know that this is really a well-established e-commerce brand. Their conversion rate is not the best, but it's very high for a high-ticket store like this with this sort of average order value. Overall, nonetheless, a very good brand to kind of be looking into to see how they were able to even generate results like this. But now let's know a little bit more of the intricate details you might not necessarily know about when looking at these metrics. So first things first, they're not a drop shipping store by any means. They are a real brand with a real warehouse. They stock their products. They actually have a warehouse on the east coast of the United States with over 17 employees working for this e-commerce brand. So as you can already see, it's a very well established brand. It's not some Joe Schmo just running their e-commerce brand from their mom's basement like I told you guys. But overall, they did $4.07 million just in terms of of revenue for the brand. Now let's go on over to their Google Ads account to get a better idea of how much they did from Google Ads alone, how much they did from Facebook ads. Because yes, this is one of those brands which have a very heavy reliance on Facebook, and one of the main reasons they kind of started working with us now recently is because with Facebook their results went down to zero, which is basically the unfortunate thing for 95% of the e-commerce brands out there. But we're gonna change this time period right now to 2021, so we're just changing it to 2021. We look at the first of the first month, so January 1st all the way to December 31st. So if we change this right here to December 31st of 2021, we can see during this time period, looking at all the campaigns, they had about $107,000 total ad spend. If we look at the actual conversion value that they did during this time period, we can see that overall they had about 2,800 conversions in total right here, not impressions, but 2,889 conversions for a total of $1.6 million in overall sales. Now this number, again, it's not fully accurate because the conversion tracking during this time period was not always accurate. So this number is actually a bit more. So overall, out of that $4.07 million in sales, this brand did roughly 60 to 70% in revenue from Google Ads alone. And as you can see, there's no question about whether this was profitable or not. I mean, they were running at a 14x ROAS, following a lot of the same strategies which I still teach on my YouTube channel, which I implement for a lot of my other e-commerce brands out there that I'm currently working with, as well as my own e-commerce brand. So let's kind of dissect this a bit further to understand how were they even possibly doing 14x, 15x ROAS during a time period when, like people from Facebook, a 3x and a 2x ROAS is very good for them. I mean, this just blows my mind. It's very insane, but kind of look a bit deeper, you will understand that there's nothing crazy about this. In fact, you can be doing this yourself. You just need to have the right strategies. And I've done this multiple times for a lot of e-commerce brands. In fact, one other memorable brand which I worked with, which was an e-commerce brand under my Google Ads agency, Euro Marketing, was also this brand right here, where we roughly spent $57,000 in total ad spend. And this was also a higher ticket store, but we did about $542,000 in sales. So roughly the same kind of ROAS that I saw right here with this e-commerce brand. And it just tells you that it's possible with the right strategies. Again, a lot of these strategies were the same ones I always teach in my YouTube videos, as well as what I implement on my own brands. But let's kind of start off by talking about what the overall strategic approach was for this e-commerce brand. So what we can see is there are a bunch of different campaigns right now running during this time period that actually spend any type of money, but a lot of them, about half of them, didn't even spend anything. So in reality, let's look at how many of the campaigns were actually spending any type of budget. So only 34 campaigns during the year of 2021 that kind of resulted them in doing over 6 figures in ad spend and 7 figures in revenue. But the campaigns at the very top, majority of them, you can see, were actually shopping campaigns and a mix of other campaign types. So this campaign right here was actually a remarketing campaign, and it was a search-based remarketing campaign. This one right here, also a branded search campaign, which I always talk about. This was a display campaign, but overall, we can see that the ad spend was going majority of the times to this main campaign right here, which has about 6 times more of the ad spend than this second campaign on the list. And this was a full-on smart shopping campaign. So this is what I always say in my YouTube videos. I kind of hammer it, bash it into your head all the time, even in the recent videos I released, which is you need to focus on Google smart based bidding strategies. You need to let Google be on your side. You can see the results here of an e-commerce brand where they let Google's algorithm kind of be on their side. They let Google's smart bidding decide a lot of things for them. And as you can see, overall ROAS was a 12x ROAS. They did about $800,000 from just one campaign alone. So they were fully having a very minimalistic approach when it comes to shopping campaigns. I mean, this campaign was the only shopping campaign that was running consistently throughout the year, which was getting results. And if we go inside, look at the settings, we will see it's nothing different than what I always mentioned, what a campaign should run at. So it was running at a maximized conversion value kind of ROAS strategy type. And right now it was running at 700. During that time period, it was not at a 700% ROAS. One thing that was kind of a bit weird was this campaign was targeting in multiple different countries. And again, I only recommend one country per campaign, but nonetheless, this was what this campaign was running on. And if we look at the overall change history, we can see a lot of the times this campaign didn't even have much going on, because a lot of the times it was just running without any interference. I mean, this whole time period right here was basically a time period where nobody made any change for months. That's what I mean when I say you don't go in and you don't go crazy making a bunch of changes, because if you see this time period right here, the ROAS was through the roof. Things were going great compared to this time period right here where the ROAS had basically started to dip. And these little triangles that you see are basically timestamps of when somebody went in and when somebody made a change. When these timestamps became close to each other, you can see what happened to the ROAS. It basically became destructive and it just went down this drain. Whereas during time periods when it's more kind of gapped out, the ROAS is much better also during this time period. So it just kind of lets you know that you don't just go in and go crazy with making all of these adjustments all at the same time, because all that does is it kind of ruins the overall campaign optimization. And by the way, 700% ROAS was set during the month of July. So during this time period is when they decided to set that 700% target ROAS. But overall, before that time period, if we look at the monthly and even weekly time ranges, we can see during this time is when it was the most powerful. When we set that target ROAS, which was in July, things didn't really go up to that level that they were at before. There was really no set strategy of what to do with these campaigns. They were just done to analyze, figure out what works, what doesn't work for this e-commerce brand, so that they could go out and do things better. That's really what was going on here. And as you can see, a lot more search campaigns because this brand didn't really need any more shopping campaigns. All they really needed was more search campaigns to work for them. Shopping, all the products were inside one shopping campaign. And by the way, this is not necessarily the best way to go because they had just literally jam-packed all of their products within this shopping campaign, regardless of what the selling price was, regardless of what kind of sub-niche it was in. And that's really not the best way to go because you could kind of segment it much better. But nonetheless, that's what they did. It worked for them. So all they really needed to do was test different search campaigns out, which is exactly what they did with all of these other campaigns. But in addition, again, even with these search campaigns, there was a very big reliance on just overall having smart based bidding options. I mean, this standard display campaign right here was running on maximize conversions. This search campaign right here was running on target CPA. As you can see, literally everything besides a few campaigns like this one only maximize clicks, but literally everything was running on maximize conversions, target CPA, because it was fully focused on smart based bidding strategies. But before you go crazy, just go into your ad account and just shut everything off that's standard shopping based or manual CPC based and just go crazy with smart bidding. Hear me out. If we go back in time with this account to basically when this account was started, so 2018, as you can see, 12/3 2018 is when they kind of started this account, 12/3, and we go back in basically 1 year's worth of time period to 2020, we can see during this time period is when they really had started to take off. But the interesting thing is the smart shopping campaign came later on when they had more data. Before that, all these campaigns right here, like a test bucket campaign, standard shopping campaign, generic, all the strategies which I mentioned were what we're running right here, and they were running initially on maximize clicks kind of bidding strategies and everything that is standard based. So none of those smart shopping based, at least during the initial time period, until later on they did changes to target ROAS, target CPA, etc. etc. But during this time period, you can see that the overall results, they were still pretty good, of course, with the main smart shopping campaign right here. But even with these other campaigns, the results were subpar. They were good, but they could have been better. But nonetheless, it didn't matter during that time period because the main task was to get enough data so that this account could fully transition into smart shopping. So a key thing to keep in mind, if you are just starting a Google Ads account, if you're already doing good ads or wherever else you might be doing good, but you're just starting out with Google, you need to start a minimalistic approach via a standard shopping campaign. There's no way around this. If you go with smart shopping, it might not necessarily give you the results you kind of want to get, and it will be a big mess. So you don't want to go that route. You want to go with standard shopping, let it gather data, and then once you have enough data, let it go with smart shopping campaigns. That's exactly what this e-commerce brand did. So to kind of understand how they went from having these standard shopping campaigns initially, from just gathering enough data, just launching basically the same thing, which I always teach on my YouTube channel, just having those two test bucket campaigns, one high bid campaign, one low bid campaign, and then transitioning over to more smart based bidding strategies. Nowadays, you can't do smart shopping because that's again a thing of the past. So it's more about performance max campaigns for the rest of you guys. But kind of going from that initial time period, doing about $8 million in sales in total, as you can see, since the beginning of time. So from 2018 until now, about $8 million. Here are a few things I noticed with this e-commerce brand, which they kind of did from the beginning to when they kind of scaled to what they're doing right now. So first things first, very clear that they went from just selling a few products at very low margins, like $60, $50, to then increasing over time. And the AOV is one thing that continued to increase as they continue to find more and more success with their campaigns, with their strategies. And by the way, before even continuing further, let's kind of break down what they did last year in terms of the overall ad spend. So one thing I didn't really go into in this video is what they spend in Google ads compared to what they spend in Facebook ads. So if we look at Google ads side of things, looking at from the beginning, so 1st of January 2021 to the end in December of 2021, we can see that overall they spent again 104, or in this case $107,000, to make back about $2.5 million in sales. But the reality is they did about 4.07 million in the overall revenue. So if we open up our calculator right here and if we type that in, so general idea, so 4,070,000 minus 2.5 million, so 2500, and then 3 more zeros to get back about $1.5 million. So they did about 1.5 million from Facebook, because again, Facebook was a heavily induced platform. In this case, they were getting a lot of revenue and surprisingly a lot of growth from Facebook. I say surprisingly because a lot of high ticket brands like these don't necessarily find too good success with Facebook, but this brand, at least in 2021, was crushing it with Facebook. So as you can see, that was kind of the division with what they were doing from Google compared to what they were doing with Facebook. And kind of transitioning into this year, Facebook is like 1% to 2% now. Google ads is 98%, 99%, but they definitely need to do a bit more in terms of Google now this year with the recession coming about. But a lot of things were going right for this e-commerce brand from the beginning, and a lot of things they were invested in. So like I already covered, AOV was one big thing, but in addition, one thing that really helped them with their conversion rates and all of that stuff is they were using a lot of custom landing pages. So for obvious reasons, I'm not going to go into their actual landing pages, but they had a lot of custom landing pages. Their overall conversion rates was very high compared to other kind of niches that sell high ticket products like these. And that's simply because their landing pages were full on custom. I mean, this year the conversion rate is down just a little bit, but still nonetheless, they were doing much better. But the custom landing pages helped significantly. In addition, their fast shipping time. So like I said, everything gets shipped from the US within about 4 to 7 business days because they stock products in the US. Obviously, that's why they're going to have very good return customer rates, because this niche, people need to buy accessories, people need to buy certain tools to go with the main item which this e-commerce brand sells. So that's why it's really beneficial to have fast shipping times, custom landing pages, because then people associate you with this brand and people want to buy from you consistently. But in addition, they offered extraordinary customer service. Like I mentioned, they have a team of 17 people devoted to providing the best possible service, the best possible experience, and all of that good stuff, which unfortunately 95% of e-commerce brands don't do. And as a result, they don't face the same amount of growth, the same amount of scale as this e-commerce brand did right here. But in addition, they are focused heavily on testing different things out. They're focused on testing different advertising platforms. They don't just kind of find success with one thing and then just sit on their bumps all day and not do anything else. They continuously test different things out. In fact, that is something I'm heavily introducing with this brand as well, especially with the new strategies, which we have kind of laid out within the last 14 days since we started work. So if we look at the last 14 days and look at the all-enabled campaigns, we can see that there are certain campaigns which are achieving 17x ROAS, 9x ROAS, and still we are able to hit a 12x ROAS, which by the way is a very big increase as to what they were doing initially before they kind of came to us, before they started really working with our Google ad agency. So if we kind of compare it to the previous time period and the last 14 days, once it loads up, you will be able to see just the sheer amount of growth it has been able to achieve. So right here, overall in the AOV, it has increased significantly. The overall conversions, if we look at the current model, we have increased in 17% in the total number of sales, and everything is looking much better. I mean, 157% increase in the conversion value, just because I introduced a few different campaign types which this brand needed heavily, again fully based on performance max, which were not kind of running before. And even if they were running in terms of smart shopping, they were not properly optimized. So I came in and I properly optimized it to begin scaling this brand to the next level. And if you want more details as to the campaigns and how I'm doing the strategies here, let me know down in the comment section below. But that pretty much covers it for the case study of this e-commerce brand which I'm working with, which did over $4 million in just a year's time period. Again, if you're doing over $30,000 per month in revenue, you need a little bit of extra help scaling to the next level like this e-commerce brand did. Go onto my website at yourmarketing.com and book a free call with me to see how we can make that happen. But if you found any type of value in this video, destroy that like button, destroy that subscribe button, and I will see you in my next video.